I'm making a comic, and last video I talked about how I wrote the script for it. This video is about the next step, thumbnailing, also known as ugly sketching. Like last video, at the end of this one there will be a little summary card you can download for free. I learned the term thumbnailing in the context of storyboarding, where a thumbnail is a term for sketches as small as a thumbnail. The smallness of those sketches is supposed to force you into focusing on one thing only, the legibility of the composition. Small, ugly sketches are also easier to throw away, and in this visual brainstorm phase, you need to be ready to scratch whatever you just drew to get a better result. And so, in making my comic, this stage exists for two reasons: creating the compositions and the flow of the panels. Those sketches are not about character or environment designs, not about the poses or emotions, just the general layout. Working digitally, the sketches aren't actually thumbnail sized, but the sentiment of having it appear small still matters. And two strategies for that are: one, keeping the canvas very zoomed out, or two, using a huge brush that makes the canvas appear smaller proportionally. It is in the thumbnail stage where you will discover what you haven't designed yet, which NPCs, props, and environments will have to be drawn. Don't do the designs during this stage, keep it focused on the flow. Since thumbnails are about composition and layout, what did I consider specifically regarding the vertical Webtoon format? About composition. So first of all, establishing shots, which in movies are usually horizontal landscapes, become naturally more about the vertical space you are showing. Some people make horizontal panels anyway, and the reader just needs to turn their phone, but I didn't do that. It's fine to do though. So since establishing shots are vertical, you can create a flow from the upper part of the building, or space, revealing what's happening below. That's a common camera move in films anyway, so it's convenient that it works in Webtoon format. By the way, I just published the third chapter of my comic, and if you want to check if all the information I'm sharing here is actually working in my own work, please check it out on Webtoons. I'll link it below. And also, this comic is for the Webtoons contest, so if you want to support it, now is the time. Another consideration is that shots involving multiple characters probably need to have a layout in which the characters are sort of stacked on another instead of side by side. One way of doing that is using depth, which is the z-axis of the camera. In my own comic, I use more abstract compositions, which means shots that don't replicate something a camera can shoot, but more of a storybook illustration style. So I have some of both: multiple characters stacked in space and multiple characters arranged in an illustrative form. Close-ups, medium shots, and wide shots work like in movies, only with less background visible behind the character. So you either need to make the character smaller to show something in their environment, or show it in an insert shot, which is an isolated shot of whatever you want to show. The rule of thirds is a common composition guideline as well, and it also applies for Webtoons. Just consider the vertical thirds a little more than the horizontal thirds. For impact shots, one helpful way of thinking about cool Webtoons compositions for me is to imagine a phone wallpaper version of your panel, because that's literally how it will look while you're reading. To learn more about vertical composition, I really recommend the book Framed Ink 2 by Marcos Mateo Mestre. He specifically did that to talk about the modern era of video content watched on the phone. So about flow. The most important thing about flow is something I'm still learning myself: spacing. As a general rule, you should probably always leave more space between the panels than you first sketched. The more space you leave between two panels, the longer the sensation of this moment will be, because the reader will scroll for a millisecond longer. With that, you can control how fast or slow your scene is feeling. For speech bubbles, consider if your audience reads from right to left or left to right, and place the bubbles in a way that guides your eyes through the frame. I discovered it's usually a little more intuitive to read the bubble first and have the image below, but I have been putting text after the image as well when I want it to feel a little like a reveal or something unexpected is being said, but I'm not sure if it's working or not, so if it feels weird, just let me know. Definitely test read your comic in the thumbnail stage. For my first chapter, I exported the sketches with the text placement to make a test scroll on my phone, and then I adjusted the sketch pacing according to that. Since the thumbnail stage is not intended for design and poses, you could have a clean sketch pass after that stage before going into line art, but I'll admit that I didn't do that. I have a deadline for the chapters and enough confidence in being able to figure out the pose during the line art. But that wasn't always the case. When I started out drawing, I did multiple sketch passes, so if you have time and want to do that, it's totally fine. Before the line art though, we need to design all the things we discovered will be needed, and that's what my next video will be about. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to read the webtoon and subscribe to see the rest of this tutorial series. Have a great day.